Welcome to all of you beautiful people. Well, arrived as well to all of you average looking chaps, and fine, I guess there is some room for you in the back to all of you ugly motherfuckers. Now, what we have for today on this Sunday is some random off-topic talk about what's gonna happen at the release of the next patch, mostly about, for example, which characters I have settled on playing in Season 2, which role, which specs, and the reason why I think it's gonna be fine or not, as well as some questions about, is there anything to do in Season 2 I should be aware about? Is there something we will have to be grinding or farming, for example, at the start of the season? Is there something to min-max? Is there something to keep an eye out on at the release of the patch in the new zone, for example, to power up my characters, etc, etc. So let's start with the question that might interest the largest part of the player base, which is, what is there to do at the release of the patch? First things first, let's point out immediately that there is a difference between the release of patch 10.1 and the release of Season 2. It's a slight difference, precisely it's a 1 week long difference, because the patch comes out on May the 2nd or May the 3rd, and Season 2 comes out on May the 9th or May the 10th. So you have a 1 week grace period where all of the Season 2 features, like for example rated PvP, as well as Mythic Plus and the raid, are not going to be out, as well as all of the associated loot, rewards, etc, etc. The first week is going to be strictly the basically open world part of the patch. So the question is there still something to do in the open world in the first week that might benefit us in any way? If you have kept up this season, for example, with the Great Vault every week, at the very least above Mythic Plus 15, so if you have gotten your weekly rewards from 415 item level all the way up to 421 for the entire expansion, if right now you are between 415 and 422 item level, then for you, basically, no, really, for you, you can kind of just ignore what's going on in the open world. What happens if you are, for example, a returning player, if you have a last-minute change of heart and you decided to pick up a 384 item level scuffed character, etc, etc, then you might find more to do in the first week, because the new zone, the Zaralek Caverns, is still going to have some easy and quick catch-up gear for you, since remember that Season 2 will bring up the item level all the way up to 440, well into the 450s for the highest pieces of gear. So in the Zaralek Caverns, 410, 415, 405 will be the equivalent of basically welfare gear in that zone. So if you are somewhat under-geared, you can still benefit from going around and doing stuff like open world quests, events, as well as the weekly event in the Zaralek Caverns to get some gear for your scuffed, hobo, disgusting, low-level characters. If you have high item level, then no. You can just, do the zone because it's new, because it's fresh, because there is new stuff to get, right? But not really to improve, not really to strengthen your high item level characters right now. So, if you already are a high item level character who is only basically already interested in rated content in PvP or Mythic Plus and raids, then no, just wait for the opening of the season the week after, right? That's when you can get yourself busy, that's when you can lock yourself inside Mythic Plus keys for 15 hours a day, etc, etc. That's when the whole grind can begin for you, not for the first week. Same can be said for other features like crafting, for example. All of that stuff will still require Season 2 reagents, Season 2 materials, so it's not stuff that you can start grinding or having to do at the start of the first week, basically, of the patch. So effectively the TLDR is no, there isn't really much to do if you have kept up your item level in this season. You can just chill out, take things easy, and just explore and experience the new zone for the first week. You have a bit more to do if you have under-geared characters you want to bring up quickly. You can still do it, by the way, in the Forbidden Reach already, and then you can also go and do it, get catch-up gear in the Zaralek Caverns in the first week. Now, with that being said, as far as your character choice goes, as far as choosing eventually, finally, once and for all, what to play in the next season. So we have heard this question, and I'm sure some of you will continue to ask themselves this question until the last minute about what to play in the next season. You might be going back and forth between maybe a couple of characters, and then some of the most degenerate ones might even be undecided between 4, 5, 6 or 7 characters. However, I came to my choice, as you might have seen recently from my background videos. The choice has been to pick up both Evoker and Paladin at the same time for Season 2. Now, the answer is obvious, the answer is mostly forced, as we are going to get in the raid next season keeping up 2 characters at once for splits, for clearing the raid a couple of times with 2 different rosters to try to maximize the gear, as well as trying to have more options for which compositions to go for in the raid, for example. So that's why going for a second character was a thing. I already had a Death Knight, mostly as a tank, but me being a healer on my Evoker, I had to go for a second healer. I didn't really go for the meta, I didn't really go for trying to think and pick a flavor of the month pick for my second character. If I had to, I would have probably went for Shaman or Druid. If I had to think about which characters I should pick, which might be very powerful in the raid, plus also still have a comfy spot in Mythic Plus, then since I am already playing Evoker, the only other 2 who currently look like they will be able to hold a spot in both situations are the Shaman and the Druid. Instead, I went for Paladin. Now, Holy Paladin, to be fair, doesn't look nearly as good, nearly as promising as Evoker. Paladin is not doing too well in Mythic Plus. Paladin lacks far too much damage right now as a healer in Mythic Plus, and in some cases will also lack quite the HPS compared to other healers in Mythic Plus, and then also it's not looking too good in the raid. Just by looking at the results from the PTR testing, from the Mythic raiding PTR testing, Holy Paladin is getting gapped at the moment by quite a few specs. It's getting gapped by the Blossom build of Evoker, it's getting gapped by Holy Paladin, by Mistweaver Monk, by Resto Shaman, by Resto Druid, as well as good Discipline Priests. So kind of, actually, the TLDR is getting gapped by everyone at the moment. You would think maybe a super OP tier set, a borrowed power out of nowhere could rescue them. And no, because it turns out that the tier set of Holy Paladin is amongst, if not the weakest out of all of the healers tier sets. So it's actually not looking too good for Holy Paladin. But, I wanted a Holy Paladin. I haven't really ever raided seriously as a main pick Holy Paladin, so it was a new experience to try out. Plus, there is still always generally some room for Holy Paladin in early progression, plus it's the second character, not the main, and the last and more important plus is that luckily Paladin got a facelift, got a rework very recently, which also coincidentally made Prot Paladin super OP. Which means that now you also have the option to spice things up and just get out of the raid and go to do Mythic Plus as a tank, as a Prot Paladin. So that's a good extra option you can have if you pick up a Holy Paladin healer. That's why I kind of enjoyed the option, the chance of playing Holy Paladin together with Preservation Evoker. I'm pretty safe and comfy about the choice of Preservation. It's doing fine enough in Mythic Plus. It might or might not be overtaken by Resto Druid or Resto Shaman, but it's definitely going to remain quite strong and in the raid as well, despite being nerfed and despite definitely not remaining as strong as the first part of Season 1. Even the new build, the different build of Evoker that will be used in Season 2 will still be strong enough to have Evokers in your raid, so it is definitely looking much more viable and competitive compared to Holy Paladin. So that is the current situation when it comes to my choices as far as the competitive side of PvE is concerned. Double healer with the plus of one of the healers also being able to play the flavor of the month tank. So that's the situation right now. I haven't really got anything left to min-max before the release of the season. As mentioned, there won't be really much else to grind or farm in the first week of the patch, so you can kind of take it easy before you go into your grind, into your Mythic Plus grind in the first week, in the first couple of weeks of Season 2, to try to grab as much gear as possible from Mythic Plus in the first few weeks, especially, of course, me having double healer. We are going to get genocided out of loot, as it is standard nowadays to funnel loot onto the DPS and sort of starve the healers. It means that for healers it will be quite important to grab a whole bunch of loot from Mythic Plus. So that is something I will have to put a lot of importance on in the first week or two of the next season. However, this was just supposed to be a tiny little update about what's gonna be going on, both for everyone and also for me, in the first week or so of the patch and of Season 2, so I shouldn't really be going any further and drag a video to be too long once again, so we can stop here on this Sunday. I can let you off with a short video on the last day of the weekend. With this out of the way, we're also going for a short, quick round of goodbyes. Thanks, of course, to all of the Patreon supporters, as well as everyone else who is supporting for free, from liking and commenting down on the video, as well as subscribing to the channel, or also following me over on my Twitter or on my stream on Twitch. With this quick version of goodbyes out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, I hate it when it's cloudy, because either you get out and show me the sun, or you actually get on with it and start raining. Don't just go for half-baked shit, please.